Welcome to the Mindful Healers podcast with Dr. Jessie Mahoney
and Dr. Ni-Cheng Liang.
We are physicians and leaders who are also trained in coaching, yoga, mindfulness, and integrative medicine.
We are also mothers, spouses, sisters, daughters, aunts, and friends.
In this podcast, we share candid, heart-centered, loving, science-based, thoughtful, and often fun conversations about the challenges life throws at us.
With our collective experience of over 30 years in physician and personal wellness, we reflect and offer pearls of wisdom for navigating life's challenges with more ease.
From parenting, marriages, money scarcity, cancer survivorship, uncertainty, challenges in practicing medicine, we cover it all.
We invite you to refresh your perspective and empower yourself with mindset, mindfulness, and other well-being tools that actually work. A quick reminder that nothing in our podcast is medical advice.
Welcome to our episode on focusing on what's in your control.
And a moment to share that you may have noticed that we took a pause on the podcast last week, an intentional pause to collect ourselves post-election.
We literally also could not talk. Both of us ended up with laryngitis and literally lost our voices, perhaps in more ways than one.
And I was also in the midst of several retreats, and choosing not to squish in a recording was an act of self-compassion and kindness.
And I was in the midst of volleyball playoff season for my eldest, who ended up part of a championship team winning the school's first California Interscholastic Federation division title.
That is super exciting. And so I wanted to celebrate that we actually recorded 225 episodes without missing a week. And so rather than focusing on the fact that we missed a week, to celebrate that accomplishment and achievement and practice that it's okay to skip when needed and to show up with non-judgment when that happens. So we thank you for your flexibility and know that it wasn't a glitch in your subscription that you didn't get an episode last week. And we plan to continue to record weekly, but also hope to model for all of you how to be flexible when needed and practice non-judgment and self-compassion and kindness when life happens. So today's episode is actually about when life happens, and this is our episode on catastrophizing and focusing on what's in your control when disappointing things happen. This is also our election episode, but we know that these issues come up around many other things in life. And to start, I wanted to share this thought of things being different. Things should be different, and we can still each make a difference. And that is what came up for me around the election, that it very much is out of our control. And all we can do is focus on the difference that we each still can make. For me, the election was very much a pivotal moment of seeing what was, a clarifying moment. And it actually happened during several of my retreats. And so being in community in that moment was a really interesting experience, and being able to apply coaching tools literally in the moment as people reacted to things that for many people were disappointing, and seeing how they can help. And so our hope here is to share some of those tools of coaching and mindfulness and how they can change your experience of moments in time, I like to say. So we can feel hopeless and despairing or incredulous, or we can choose to move forward differently. So coaching is what I like to call an unmanaged mind. And an unmanaged mind is generally not helpful in chaotic times or disappointing times, unexpected times. An unmanaged mind is generally reactive. And so mindfulness and coaching offer choosing your response. Catastrophizing is also generally not helpful in moments of not met expectations or disappointing results. And even in moments of clarity, when you discover that something isn't the way you thought it was. And dropping into victimhood, I often also like to point out, is disempowering. And so we hope that this episode will inspire you to manage your mind and choose how you want to show up in this moment, and to choose, rather than to be a victim, to focus on what's in your control.
I'm also going to call out the fact that the reaction to a difficult and disappointing circumstance like the election could have been automatically on the managed mind or catastrophizing or choosing victimhood, because there is some automatic reactivity towards this, and there's some stress reactions that have been ingrained in us over decades, likely. But we, especially in this episode, will be sharing our truths about what has helped us navigate, literally through our own physical illnesses, because my voice literally just came back like just a couple of days ago, what I have done, what's helped me. And so we hope that this will help you too. So mindfulness is such a keystone component for helping in difficult circumstances, especially because these results, and not just like the presidential election, but even like local and state level type of results, might not have been what you wanted or expected. And you can trust that you did your own part in what you could, right? So you could control whether or not you could vote or not, and whether or not you did or did not, and who you voted for, and what statutes and propositions you voted for. But it's not just about our choices in this election. It's about so much more, and it's the voices of so many others, like literally tens of millions of Americans.
And I think we can tell a story about that our voice doesn't matter because it's one of 10 million, and that doesn't feel good. And so recognizing that we can focus on what's in our control and do the best we can in the moment, and that's what we can do. The other thing that comes to mind here is to also not be mean to yourself. You very well might be angry, might be grieving, might be sad, and to not practice what we call toxic positivity and just move past that, or emotional bypassing, and to take a moment to collect yourself, so like we did, and to come to this point of moving forward with intention when you're ready. So one other thought I have here is, as you're thinking about your reaction or your response, is to choose your language thoughtfully, because some people come up with language that it's, a disaster or it's a catastrophe. And we can make ourselves feel better or make ourselves feel worse about a disappointing moment when we choose our language. And so one suggestion I have is to get rid of all the adjectives. It's just a moment in time. The other might be to choose language that helps you feel grounded. This is something that happens every 4 years. In 4 years, things will be different. I think when we tip into the language of disasters and catastrophizing, it feels much more stressful. So my first thought here, which is often my first thought in challenging moments, is to ask that question, what would love do? And while that might seem strange in the face of, a political event. I think it's really helpful because most of us, especially when things feel uncertain and unsteady and maybe scary, we tend to go into fear. And so love is something that we can access. And so love for yourself and love for your family and love for your friends and love for the world at large. How would love show up for a challenging moment in time? And or what would hope do? It doesn't have to be love if love isn't work for you. Potentially saying, what would hope do? How would hope respond to this information and this decision and this moment in time? My guess is that love would not catastrophize and love would not choose to be a victim and love would not focus on things that are out of your control. And hope would likely not catastrophize, not choose to be a victim, and also not focus on things that are out of your control.
But love and hope could lean into mindfulness. And I think
Yes.
this post-election period is it's an abundant opportunity to practice the noticing, feeling the feelings, right? So we've talked about this before, feel to heal and name to tame. This is like such a great opportunity to notice what's arising for you, to acknowledge your truth, especially with all of the different physiologic manifestations of your emotions. And then becoming aware of your automatic reactions, which we just named some potential ones that may not be helpful in this particular moment. But then it's the mindfulness that provides the space to choose your response and doing or not doing what you need to do to help move through this difficulty. We also talked a lot about acceptance. So accept and not like, accept and be disappointed, accept and be angry, accept this particular moment in this time, because we'll never get that back. And it's already here. The reality is already here. People have spoken. And as we've also talked about before, resisting what is costs a lot for us, mind, body, and spirit.
Resisting reality is releasing cortisol. If you're thinking about that neurochemical cascade, right? And so in a cortisol bath, we're unlikely to come up with creative solutions. We're more likely to feel stuck and threatened and overwhelmed. And so acceptance can actually, from a physiologic standpoint, move you out into a different space where maybe you can find something that is in your control, something that does feel grounding, something that does feel steadying. And I often like to make the distinction between philosophic mindfulness and physiologic mindfulness, and I feel called to make that distinction here. And so acceptance to me is philosophic, and all of those tenets of mindfulness that we talk about, non-judgment and patience and compassion and kindness and trust and letting go, and help me remember some of the others. Non-striving. Those are all what I would say philosophic ways of approaching mindfulness. And for some people, that's the easiest place to start. The other piece of mindfulness, which we're also talking about, is the physiologic. What happens when you upregulate your parasympathetic? And what happens when you breathe? And what happens when you practice hand to heart? And so recognizing that you can use mindfulness for both of these. And as we're talking about leaning into mindfulness, I encourage you to lean into it all, because in moments where we're really stretched to find spaces that feel safe and comfortable, use all your tools and find the thing. For some of us, accessing the physiologic piece might be the first place. For others of us, maybe we have to access it from the mindset before we can reach a space where we can work with our physiology. So you do you. I also wanted to reflect on this accept, because there's one other option of accepting, which may seem hard here, but might actually be your window, which for me it was accept and allow. So I did want to accept and be disappointed and accept and be angry and accept and not like. But for me, this opening of, I don't have to like it, but I can allow it and allow that this is what's happening, and recognizing that it's out of my control. But what's in my control is to decide that I'm going to allow whatever's going to unfold and allow my reactions to it, and then decide. So it should be different, but how can I make a difference? And that allow, actually, even though it feels so hard in situations sometimes, can be really, really helpful.
So I'm going to share a little bit about what's been happening in my life for the last week and a half of post-election situations. Because I was so physically ill, I did have to ground into my physiology of mindfulness. Partly also because my body didn't really give me a choice. Like, I literally could not talk. I could not be a physician and interact with patients while being this sick with this upper respiratory thing that I had. So I had more space to be able to feel my feelings at the same time as I was trying to give my physical body and also my mental health a break and simply be. I used to write. In fact, the Facebook reminders and memories from 2016 popped up, and I was like, wow, I wrote a lot in response to this. But this time, because I was so physically ill, I didn't feel as compelled to write. I felt compelled to just rest. I also unapologetically needed to take off time from work, and I ended up needing to reschedule 60 plus patients. And before, I would have been a little bit guilty, would have like tried to figure out a way where I could like shout with my laryngitic voice and strain my vocal cords even more. Because I remember showing up to call in residency with hardly a voice, taking all of the over-the-counter medications to try to get through my call. But now it was like very clear to me, like I just need to stay home and rest. What was also helpful in the last week and a half, and what I've been committing myself to doing more of, is to find out what's helpful for me and my loved ones in this moment. Like, what's the next best thing to do or not to do in my microsphere of control. So there was a lot of self-reflection, some space to recharge, a lot of mindful walks when I was feeling better, to like move my body in positive ways. I went outside and connected in nature with some local neighborhood hikes, also connecting with others, with friends and family, expressing in safe containers what I was feeling, sharing in safe spaces. And then once I had capacity, then holding space for others as well. I also wanted to point out, because when catastrophizing takes over, there is a lot of negative attention bias. And that's not necessarily helpful in the moment to get to a point with figuring out what is the next best step for you and your loved ones. And so I'm going to invite you in this difficult period. Right now we're talking about post-election, but it could be anything, any difficult circumstance in your life that you come across, because inevitably there will be some. That's just part of life, is to notice kindness and beauty that's still all around you, even in the littlest of gestures or things, or love that is shared amongst your friends and family. Like, I invite you to intentionally notice what's kind and what's still beautiful in your life right here, right now.
And interestingly, my period after the election was very much not resting. It was very much the opposite of, I was in the midst of back-to-back retreats, which I didn't schedule on purpose to be around the election, but for me, it was actually fantastic because I was busy and doing things that I loved. And while you might say it was a distraction, it was a healthy distraction. And it also involved tons of yoga and mindfulness. So that was good for me. And it involved lots of people and being able to interact with people and support yourself with community and laughter and conversations and healthy, nourishing food. And so recognizing for you what you need in different points in time. And obviously, that's not something that one can do ongoing. And you may or may not be able to plan it out, but to notice what works for you and to pause, that's where the mindfulness really comes into play. What do I need right now? Do I want to be by myself? Do I need to be in community? And really thinking creatively about all the things that you need to support yourself well. Remembering that when we are depleted, i.e., thinking post-call, everything seems worse. And so when you're in the midst of difficult challenges, can you sleep really well? Can you practice breathing? Can you go see beautiful sunrises and sunsets? Reminding yourself that in this moment, we're safe. And in this moment, there are good, beautiful things in the world. And you brought up the negativity bias, and remembering that for those of us who are listening who work in medicine, we have a very finely honed negativity bias, and we look for things that are wrong all the time. And we're always trying to predict in advance what could go wrong. And so when we are in a moment of time right now, that can actually add to our suffering. And remembering that suffering equals pain times resistance. And so while the pain might be there, it's again our resistance that's adding to the suffering. And so instead, can we bathe ourselves with beautiful things and kind things and friendship? I'm reminded of the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse book by Charlie Mackesy. And he talks about wrapping our hearts with friendship and laughter until we feel better. And that's really what I felt like I did, and unintentionally, and it was an amazing space to be. And so getting to know yourself, and even now, you could still support yourself with what works for you. And then hand to heart is another way of supporting yourself. And so, yes, you can get a hug from someone else, and that's amazing, but you can also practice hand to heart and give your heart a hug, or even give yourself a hug, which I often do in yoga. You're literally releasing oxytocin to help yourself feel good. And oxytocin, actually, the way that it works in your brain is that it opens up creativity and curiosity and problem solving. And well, we need a bit of that in the world today. So it's going to keep you out of that lizard reactive brain and more into your problem solving creative brain. And that's helpful. And so thinking about that is something that you can do. Practice tons of hand to heart, acknowledging that, of course, this is, of course you're worried, or of course you're frustrated, or whatever it might be. And what can you do? So the curiosity, I mentioned a few good questions, and recognizing here where you may be asking yourself not helpful questions and asking yourself better questions. So what do we need to learn from this? How can we grow? What is possible? Where can we make a difference? I think that can be a really beautiful way of thinking, and recognizing that our default questions are usually the opposite of that. What can go wrong? What terrible thing might happen? What did I do wrong? Instead, pausing and seeing if you can come up with some creative, positive questions. And if you've listened to the podcast on asking good questions, I say there that it took me about 6 years to learn to ask good questions. So just start practicing. And perhaps this is the perfect moment to begin to learn to ask better questions, because we may need to be asking better questions over the next few years. The next tip that I wanted to share has to do with generosity. And generosity is another one of those tenets of mindfulness, but I like to think of it as generous stories or helpful stories. So we could choose to believe this is a moment where things finally begin to change. We can choose to not indulge in that fear or negative what ifs. And my thought about a generous story here is that even if the worst of the worst happens, I won't speak for you, but I will not wish I had spent my time worrying about it. because one never does when the worst of the worst happens. And so if I can stay out of cortisol and stay in creativity, maybe I'll be able to come up with a solution. So a few other helpful questions that might lead to better stories is, what would your future self wish you had done? How do you want to move forward? Maybe with love, maybe with hope, maybe with grace, maybe with inspiration. And just thinking that oftentimes in these hard moments, that's what leads to our biggest growth personally and collectively. And so that is me coming from a place of hope that this disappointment and challenges that are coming will potentially lead us to growth and hopefully something better. And mindfulness, as we've talked about, and mindset work and coaching are really designed for moments like this. They're the perfect opportunity to practice. So I hope that for those of you that are listening, that maybe this is a moment that helps you jump into some of this work. And if you've been struggling to get started, maybe this is the thing that incentivizes you to realize that maybe something needs to shift. So we thank you for listening to our episode today. And we would love to have you join us for a retreat in 2025 for Connect in Nature. We would love to have you, I would love to have you join me for coaching. It really can help as you decide how you want to move through the next 4 years and beyond. We would, I encourage you to, Ni Chang has some amazing mindfulness practices on her website, awakenbreath.org. And if you feel like you want to start practicing, start with those. You can also listen to the mindful moments at the end of our podcast episodes. That's another place to dip a toe in. You can practice yoga with me. That can help also. And I think that many of the previous episodes of this podcast have a lot of tools that will help you as we begin to navigate this next phase. So we send you love, hope, grace, and we are here to offer a steady hand or perhaps a steady voice as we all move forward. Thank you so much for listening today. And if you would please, please, please leave us a written review and some stars. And even more importantly, share this podcast with others. Spreading the ripple effects of mindfulness will be even more important and relevant now. We will see you next week.
Thanks so much for joining us.
We encourage you to dive into the show notes for each episode for more learnings and resources.
We also invite you to take a listen to the many other Mindful Healers podcast episodes. And please share the podcast far and wide with colleagues, friends, and family.
If our message and approach resonate with you, we would love to work with you.
When you listen to a podcast, you consume information, but when you work with us, you can actually practice and change.
We offer coaching and mindfulness experiences, talks, workshops, retreats, and more. Connect with us at themindfulhealerspodcast.com.
The content of this podcast is not medical or life advice. We invite you to participate in the mindful moments we offer at the end of most of our podcasts, but please only do so safely.
Welcome to this mindful moment offering. This will be a loving kindness practice for yourself and ultimately the world, because we could all use a bit more of loving kindness these days. So if it's safe for you to do so, inviting you to close your eyes or lower your gaze a few inches in front of you and begin by grounding yourself in the here and now, noticing the support of the ground beneath your feet, whatever you're sitting upon. And then as you're ready, bringing your hands to your heart, pushing in just a little bit, noticing that connection the point of contact between your hand and your chest, and then the hand atop of your other hand. These tactile sensations of connection that you can notice. And bringing into your mind's eye a loved one. This could be a partner, a spouse, child, parent, friend, brother, sister, someone that you love unconditionally and who has shown you love unconditionally, and wishing loving and kind intentions for them. You can repeat after me, either aloud or within your mind. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. And then including in those same loving and kind intentions, the conglomerate of your friends and family, maybe especially those who are in vulnerable and marginalized communities, and sending this collective of loved ones, those same loving and kind intentions. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. And then spreading those same loving and kind intentions beyond your loved ones, but including more neutral people in your life, like the cashier at the grocery store, or the post woman or postman, or the garbage collector, or the gardener, or the librarian, someone that you notice, but you might not have either a positive or a negative affinity towards. And so this will include people in your community, perhaps neighbors you don't know as well, and sending them those same loving and kind intentions, adding on to those same loving and kind intentions that you just sent to the collective of your loved ones. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. May you be well. May you find peace. May you be happy. May you be free from harm. And spreading those same loving and kind intentions beyond the boundaries of your city to encompass your state, spreading those same loving and kind intentions beyond the boundaries of the state to encompass the entire country. And this time including yourself in those same loving and kind intentions, because you are part of this collective we in this country. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. And spreading those same loving and kind intentions all around the world, perhaps envisioning a picture of the beautiful earth far from space, envisioning the billions of people that inhabit this good earth with you as even a larger collective we. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. May we be well. May we find peace. May we be happy. May we be free from harm. And as you're ready, taking a moment to come back from the world, to the country, to your state, to your city, to your community, to your loved ones, bringing those same loving and kind intentions to yourself. Because those same loving and kind intentions can start right here, right now with yourself. May I be well. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be free from harm. May I be well. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be free from harm. May I be well. May I find peace. May I be happy. May I be free from harm. Taking a moment to notice the points of contact between your chest and your hands, the warmth that may have arisen there. And then changing that palm atop your chest, the one that's closest to your chest, into a fist. A fist of resolve, of resilience, of strength, of inner knowing, and trust in your own inner wisdom that you will know what you need in this moment. You will know what's the next best thing to do or not to do for you and your loved ones, no matter what happens. And as you're ready, bringing your palms back into your lap, taking a moment to notice how you feel now compared to a few minutes ago. When you're ready, blinking open eyes, letting the light back in. Thank you so much for sending those loving and kind intentions to the world with me and for you.